When I was in high school, creepypasta was all the rage. Everyone in my circle of friends had their favorite. James enjoyed the many stories featuring Slenderman, while his twin brother Scott preferred Jeff the Killer. Gabe was all about the Russian sleep experiment, and I myself was a huge fan of Candle Cove. But even though we loved creepypasta, none of us did so more than my best friend Carson, who was obsessed with any story featuring black-eyed kids. It actually started to affect his social life, as one by one of our friends grew tired of discussing it with him until I was the only one left willing. Well, maybe willing is the wrong word. I was just as sick of hearing about it as everyone else, but I wasn't going to turn away from Carson. He was my oldest friend. It was during the first week of summer vacation that he dropped the bomb. He came into the ice cream store I was chilling at and pulled me aside. The look on his face was deadly serious as he spoke. "Do you believe in black-eyed kids?" We'd had discussed it before. Carson often insisted that since there were so many different stories about black-eyed kids out there, some of them have to be real. I usually admitted it was possible, more to humor him than anything else, and we'd go on to talk about something else. But this wasn't like the rest of those times. The intensity with which he stared at me was too serious. It frightened me. I tried chuckling to break the tension. "What? No, man, it's fun to read about, but they're all just a bunch of stories. Don't believe anything on the internet." "I saw one last night. I snuck out for a smoke and I saw it standing outside the front door. It was just a kid. It looked at me and I saw its eyes. They were black." "Oh well, I tried to think of something to say. Maybe you were having a nightmare?" "Yeah, maybe." I could tell he wasn't happy with my response, but he didn't push it. We ate some ice cream and rode our bikes around town. A week later, my dad called a family meeting. He was a deputy in the local sheriff's department, and he often gathered us to talk safety whenever there was a nearby burglary or something. That night, we were all gathered in the living room, and Dad said, "Kids, we're going to be keeping your bedroom windows locked until further notice. That means no sleeping with them open, understand?" But Dad, my little sister's whines were like X-lay for my ears. "It gets too hot. Your mom and I will buy new fans for your rooms," Dad said to her. "I don't want any windows in the house to be accessible. We've been getting a lot of reports of prowlers hanging around people's homes, way more than usual, so we're taking extra precautions." I didn't connect Dad's warning about the prowlers to the nightmare Carson had until a few days later. I rode my bike to the police station to drop off a bagged lunch for my dad, and I overheard old Mrs. Nielsen, our local cat lady, complaining to a deputy. "And I just know this has to be something with my missing babies," she said. "6 of them haven't come home. It's these devil worshippers. Satan is corrupting the hearts of our children and sending them to murder our babies." Officer Jim, the new guy on the force, was taking her statement and seemed to be struggling to keep his face neutral. "Did you actually see the prowler take one of your cats, ma'am?" "No, but what else could it be?" she said. "I saw the hooligan's eyes when he was staring in my window. They were all black to show the evil in his heart. Devil worshippers are taking my babies." I didn't listen to the rest of the conversation. Things were starting to piece together in my head like a twisted jigsaw puzzle. I dismissed Carson's experience as a nightmare caused by overactive imagination that focused too much on black-eyed kids. But now, Mrs. Nielsen was saying she saw them too. and I somehow doubted that she was into reading creepypasta. Could my town's prowler problem really be due to black-eyed kids? Well, a part of me wanted to believe. I was still at an age where the ambiguous nature of urban legends appealed to me. It was a little scary, but no one in the stories was ever hurt or killed by black-eyed kids, so... all night staring at my window, waiting for the opportunity to see a black-eyed kid for myself. When midnight came, with no sight of them, I started sneaking around the house to check the other doors and windows. Several nights in a row I did this without catching so much of a glimpse. Carson wasn't as excited as I thought he'd be when I told him about the supporting evidence for black-eyed kids existing. He mostly remained silent while I gushed theories. I was not a smart kid. I wasn't grasping the gravity of the situation, even after a temporary curfew went into effect. It didn't dawn on me until one day I was at the pool. On my way into the locker rooms, I heard crying. Upon investigating, I found my classmate, Suzanne, curled up in the showers weeping. My first instinct was to make fun of her for being in the boys' locker room. I was a kid, judge me mercifully, but something in my lizard brain identified her tears as fearful, not sorrowful. "What's wrong?" I asked. She told me of the person who visited her window every night. He wore a gray hoodie and she couldn't see his face well in the dark, but she could tell his eyes were dark pits, empty of color. She said he kept leaving things on the ground outside her window. Things like severed cat heads and dog paws. I took a shortcut through the woods on my way home from the pool. Suzanne's words still fresh in my mind. I thought about Mrs. Nielsen's missing cats and the animal parts left outside Suzanne's window. In the stories, no one ever got hurt by black-eyed kids. They would knock on people's doors asking them to be let in, but no one ever invited them. But all the stories said people felt like the black-eyed kids were dangerous. Now that it was seeming like there was something more to this than urban legends, I couldn't help wondering about why there were no accounts of what happened if you invited a black-eyed kid into your home. A twig snapped behind me. I froze in my tracks and listened for more. When nothing reached my ears, I turned to look for the source of the sound. There was nothing around me but empty forest. I resumed walking, and this time I paid attention to my surroundings. After 5 minutes, I heard a rustling in the bush, and I spun around just in time to see a glimpse of someone wearing a gray hood disappear into the trees behind me. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I ran. My terror was so overwhelming, I didn't even feel any pain or discomfort from my mad dash, despite the fact that I almost never moved faster than a light jog. Adrenaline is a hell of a thing, isn't it? I reached my house, locked every door behind me, and hid under my bed for hours. My parents didn't realize I was home when they entered that same day. I could hear them talking in the kitchen, and my dad was using his cop voice. So I crawled out from under the bed and crept to the kitchen door to listen. Just can't believe it. How awful. How did she die? Officially, she suffered a massive cardiac event, but my dad hesitated. Something he never did in front of us kids. Damn it, if you'd seen it, you'd think there was something more going on too. Her front door was open and she was right behind it. The look on her face. If you ask me, she died of fear. Something was at her front door, and when she opened it, it scared her to death. The nightmare lasted another month during which dozens more people reported incidents of prowlers in their yards at night, and there was a spike in missing pets. What my dad thought was weird about how there were no burglaries or robberies, which usually followed an increase in prowling incidents. Some of the kids at school started talking about seeing a black-eyed kid at their bedroom windows. Poor Suzanne got the worst of it. She saw it so much that her mother enrolled her in therapy, and eventually the whole family moved away. Last I heard, they were starting Suzanne on antipsychotics. I tried talking to Carson about everything that happened that summer, but he refused. If I persisted after he asked me to stop, he'd simply get up and leave the room. He never mentioned black-eyed kids again, not even after years had passed. I've told that story several times. The first time was the winter after the incidents, when I wrote up an account and posted it on various creepypasta websites. In hindsight, that was a mistake. I told friends and strangers I met at bars, and once I even got drunk and posted it on Facebook, but I never told anyone the whole thing, not even while drunk. I'm telling it now. I don't understand the reasons why, and I still think maybe I'm making a huge mistake, but I'm telling it anyway. A woman died. A girl developed bad mental problems. I think they maybe deserve the whole story to be told. 3 years after that summer, I was helping Carson clean out his bedroom before we both went off to college. I don't know if he'd been sloppy or overconfident, or if he simply didn't care, but I found his secret buried underneath 3 years of piled clothes and rubbish in his closet. A gray hoodie. I've never seen him wear it. And in its pockets, a pair of black Solera contact lenses. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell beside it and select the box. This way you'll be notified for any new videos. Thank you for watching.